I am recording.
Perfect.
I see a waveform when I talk.
I also am.
Beautiful. And I have you two both in here and myself. So the way we do this, I'm just gonna pretend that we're hearing the intro jingle and just. Do you want to do the intro, Kyle, or should I do it?
I always forget whose turn it is. You can do it. Yeah, you can do it this time, I guess.
Okay, so I'm gonna just do the intro and mention you guys, and then we'll give the ball to you, Jason. So you introduce yourself, and then we just start talking. And we'll ask you a couple general questions, then we'll find the glue for everything.
All right.
Sup Nerds, welcome to Powerful, the Power Metal Podcast. We're here once again to talk about our favorite genre or subgenre of metal. I am your host as usual, Fernando, and I'm here with my good friend Kyle.
Hello once again, Fernando.
Hello once again, Kyle. And we have someone else to join us in this episode, another glorious U.S. West Coaster, Mr. Jason Ashcraft. Welcome to the show.
Hey. Thanks for having me. I think it's my third time, right, with you guys?
Yes.
That sounds about right, yeah.
I'm glad to be back.
Always. We're always happy to have people back. That means we didn't burn any bridges. We're getting along, which is great. And we love to see people are in the scene and musicians get better at everything and still having time to coming to this show. And our little corner of the internet really warms our hearts.
Yeah, absolutely. And the older we get within this scene, like you said, it's all right, cool. People, I have, like you said, haven't burned bridges, haven't burned them all. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to keep them going. So it's been a while since you've been here, obviously. I think most of our audience should know who you are just based on your name alone. But just in case for anyone new that might be listening in, it's always everyone's first day on the internet. Do you want to tell us a bit about what you do, your little projects?
Of course. So what's funny is I think since the last time I've been on, I've started another project. So I think now the tradition is I can't come on again unless I have a new project.
I think there's been at least two since then at this point, but it's easy to lose track.
I'm pretty sure you had me and Sozos on for Planeswalker, right?
That was for Helion Prime, I thought.
That was forever ago. It gets confusing.
Then I guess two. I thought for some reason I thought you guys had me on for Planeswalker. Maybe you talked about Planeswalker.
We talked about
your
it.
little. Okay, because I saw the
it.
artwork. Okay, well that was without me then.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Jason Ashcraft, Helion Prime, is the main baby, and then I have a band called Planeswalker with Sozos Michael, and I have a band called Of Romulus with Heather Michelle. We'll get into a lot of that stuff today. Both of them are former Helion Prime singers, and now we have other projects that we do together.
It's almost like there's a whole universe surrounding you. An Ashcraftverse, one might say.
Put some epic music in there. Yeah, so a fan in my Discord called it the Ashcraftverse, and then everyone liked it. So it just kind of stuck. So we called the Discord the Ashcraftverse, and, I've started to slowly kind of put everything under one umbrella, being the Ashcraftverse, mainly because for me, it's just easier to maintain things that way. Obviously, I want each band to have their own identity, but when it comes to me having to post things or, like, for example, a Patreon, it's like I'm not about to start 3 Patreons and try to keep track of that.
Yeah.
So even what I've done recently is I took the Helion Prime YouTube because, it has like 10K subscribers, and I've been trying to build a YouTube channel. I'm like, well, why am I doing that when I'm sitting on a YouTube channel with 10,000 subscribers? So I've changed that to Ashcraftverse, and anything I do, I'll just put out on that YouTube. And again, it's easier on me because I am the one. I tend to get in all these projects, and then everyone I work with is not very present on social media. So I've had to be the one to to do it, to be the one present on social media. And so again, for my sanity, it's just a lot easier on me if I just got one place I can do it all.
As guys who hate doing social media for our own stuff here, I completely understand.
I understand so much your pain. Because we are really
I'm not big on it either. You know, I'm a super passive guy. I don't have that sort of frontman charisma, you know, and it's, you know, I wish I did, but I don't. I'm a quiet guy. So I've had to force myself to step into that role as best I can, because once again, a lot of people I work with don't. And so again, it makes it a little easier on me not having to, all right, I got to post on this one today, I got to post on that one today. Just kind of having this little umbrella I can keep it all under makes it a little easier on me.
For sure. Now, before we get too deep into all this, I do need to do the thing that we always do with guests on these episodes, and I have to ask you for your top 4 power metal bands. These cannot include your 4 power metal bands.
Oh, well then forget it. No, I'm just kidding. So, man, you know, I'm the guy who's been listening to the same 4 power metal bands since the beginning, but obviously Blind Guardian.
I'm glad this is the obvious pick. Yes.
Yeah, I just like, I don't know. I might say more than 4, but I'll give a reason why. But as far as like the OGs for me, you know, Blind Guardian, Ed Guy, Avantasia, I clump that into one thing. It's the same guy.
Yeah.
You know, he's steering the ship. And then let's, you know, I'm scared to say it, but I have to, because I got to be true to my roots. Iced Earth.
Ooh.
We wouldn't be talking right now if their music didn't influence me as a kid. And it's like, for all the shit that went down, I can't deny the upbringing the music gave me, you know?
Yeah, you can't really rewrite your own history.
Yeah, it's like, you know, 12-year-old Jason couldn't have known.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it explains Dire Peril, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that album is literally like, how do I rip off Iced Earth with...
How do I do a
and not make it
riff?
too obvious? Yeah. I do miss playing that stuff, but let's see. So what do we say? So Blind Guardian, you know, Iced Earth, Ed Guy, Avantasia. As for a 4th, you know, here's the funny thing, guys. Like, you know, I'm thinking of like my favorite bands, and it's funny because like, as much as I love the power metal genre, a lot of my favorite bands aren't really power metal. So that's the funny thing. But, you know,
I understand that.
I think I want to say Halloween.
Okay.
You know?
A safe choice, but you know, a solid one.
I want to hear.
Yeah.
I want to hear if your 4th one is allowed to be a non-power metal one. What would you put in there?
So I instinctively want to go to Arion.
Oh, yeah, that's
enough.
valid. That's a valid choice.
Okay,
please.
And I'm like, is it power metal? Like,
it's
like
more
he uses a lot of,
but
he uses a lot of power metal singers.
Yeah, exactly.
But very proggy music.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude. If you guys will allow it,
yes, of course, I will allow Arion always.
Yeah, for sure.
So good.
Yeah. And then funny enough, like an honorable mention, and it sounds cliche, but my homies in Unleash the Archers, they're really just, they speak to me because, you know, we're very similar in that we love power metal, but we love throwing in the heavier elements, you know?
Mm.
And, you know, one of my biggest, this is getting a little off here, but you know, one of my biggest inspirations musically is like bands like Trivium. So not power metal, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate when a power metal band throws in the heavies, you know?
Yeah, that's great. That's
also
great.
Another honorable mention, Beast in Black, I guess. So, yeah. Which is funny because normally I don't really go towards that kind of power metal, but damn, those boys just...
Of all the like bands you said, that's the only like super poppy one, I guess.
That's the party disco time. Yeah,
they do it right. They do it right, and I love their singer. He's probably one of my favorites right now. So
he's really good.
It's like I can't help it. I'm just like, yeah, you guys got me. Whatever you got, you gave it to me.
So speaking of singers, Helion Prime is a bit of a meme in the community for having a lot of singers, and and it looks like you're really going to embrace that now with the new direction you're taking Helion Prime in.
Yes. So I'm learning. Yeah, I've definitely decided to embrace it, and it's really. I'm very zen with it now. It used to really eat me up, the things people would say, but I'm at a point where I just don't care anymore, almost to like a sort of like just shut up already kind of attitude. Like, no one really knows what goes on and what this shit takes. And, again, now at the point, like I mentioned, there's been 3 main singers, right?
Yeah.
The 3 main albums, 3 singers. And it's like, 2 of those 3 singers I've gone on to start other bands with. So when I see a lot of these negative comments, it's like, well, maybe if you took 2 seconds to kind of look into things, you would see like we all are in working relationships. Heather is my best friend, one of my best friends. And so it's like people love to bring you down,
There's no juicy drama is kind of what it sounds like.
Exactly.
To
so
make
it's
it boring.
really funny because, we all sit around laughing at it, and I've just chosen to embrace it. But yeah, with Helion Prime, for some reason or another, having said all that, for whatever reasons, the universe has decided like, Prime can't keep a singer sort of past an album. Even though we can go on and form these other bands together, it's still not within Prime. And, a lot of it now is, as a lot of people know, Sozos is doing Glory Hammer. So
he's a little busy.
Yeah. I mean, we've even kind of talked about the idea of Planeswalker doing tours, and it's pretty much kind of like probably not, because, he really, Glory Hammer isn't just what makes his money, but it's what it's the main income for all of them. So if he's like, I'm going to go do this tour with this band, and then now Glory Hammer potentially can't do a tour, that's 5 guys, 5 or 6. How many are in that band? 5, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And all the crew and everyone.
That's 5 guys losing income. So it's not just about him. And Heather, a lot of people don't understand, and it's fair. Like, if you're not in the know, you wouldn't understand, but she really doesn't want to do it. Like,
And that's understandable.
Yeah, she enjoys music, obviously. She likes making music, but it's really become much more a hobby than this is my life. And she's not willing to bend on that, and I respect it. And it's like, cool. And I'm just grateful we get to still do like the Of Romulus stuff and fun covers, and we still get to do things together. But people need to kind of accept that, like, dude, she doesn't want to do it. Like, as like even with the new single we put out during the premiere, some guy in the chat in the premiere was just like, "It's great. I do miss Heather though." Literally,
I think that's the curse of like any band that puts out like a thing. As soon as it's a slightly bit different, there's going to be that detraction.
Oh yeah,
there.
But I had to laugh because I was like, I couldn't even make it through the premiere without a Heather comment. But it's just like, it's been 8 years, man. Like, let it go. And it's, I don't know. I'm more zen, and I'm also a little more aggressive to it. I'm sure they mean well, but after 8 years of hearing it, I very much don't care anymore.
Right.
Like if you're still following Prime and saying you miss Heather, I don't know what you're still doing here. It really is the thing. Like, it's not gonna happen, bro.
Yeah, I guess it's the difference between like liking like that singular first album versus liking the whole band and like the journey that they're on and where they're at now and where they've been.
And I'm not naive. I know that first album is our most popular album, and I'm grateful for that. But if that's all you want, then go listen to that first album and just kindly leave me alone. Because you could have just stopped at "It's great."
Yeah,
that would have been perfect.
Yeah, really.
So that would have been great in itself. And I know that sounds mean, but again, after 8 years of it, I'm just very much like, I can't care anymore about it. So if you're gonna say comments like this, I might be a little smart ass to you, is all. But anyways, I might have got off topic there. So yeah, the new single, right? It's great.
The new single is really cool. I liked it a lot. Obviously, it's been out by the time you're listening to this, and you should, if you haven't checked it out, you should. You should go find Helion Prime. Is it Pandaemonium? Pandaemonium and
spelled with an AE.
Yeah,
with
the
Pandaemonium.
fancy spelling.
Yeah, so the title, it was very tricky, kind of come up with the title. Pandaemonium is just what kept sticking with me, but I was like, there's so many songs called Pandaemonium, and then we were going to call it like Daemonical Pandaemonium, but Sozos actually kind of talked me out of that one, because Sozos knows English better than I do.
That's something that you always have to respect. The English as a second language. We sometimes shine because we had to study formally.
Yep. Oh, dude, like the lyrics he writes, I'm sure you probably know as well. I'm just like, dude, what are these words? What? Like, I don't even know some of these words. So he kind of explained like, yeah, it's a little redundant. And I was like, all right, you're right. And so he kind of had the idea, because we wanted to do Daemonical with the AE, because, we're going in this very Lovecraftian cosmic horror direction on this new Prime material. So we were kind of feeding off that. So again, Sozos gave the idea like, just put the AE in Pandaemonium, and it kind of gives the same effect, but it's a little more straightforward. And I was like, yeah, you're right. There it is. So that's why it's Pandaemonium, but AE instead. So to kind of feed into that cosmic horror a little bit,
Yeah, very nice.
So is this a sign of things to come with Helion Prime? Is it going to mostly be singles with just whichever singer you're feeling fond of at the moment, or what's the ideas there? Or if you can't talk about that.
Oh, I can. Yeah, let's talk about that. I can see that's the beautiful piece I'm at now with sort of this big change is like I could really just, there's no labels anymore. It's just we could do whatever we want. So I don't feel this pressure of like I could talk about what I want, could talk about what I don't want, but yeah, so the idea moving forward with Prime, that's where we were at. Sorry. See, I went on this little tangent and got off topic, but so we're embracing the singer change, right? And funny enough, because I already know it's happened because people have told me, and I knew it was going to happen. If no one's noticed yet, right? It's the logo has changed to Jason Ashcraft's Helion Prime, so now I have that and the Ashcraftverse. So I'm sure people
like a Tobias Sammons or Arian Lucasen style.
And that's exactly what it is. And funny enough, I give credit to Brittany Slays from Unleash the Archers, because I was talking to her about singers and the frustrations and all this and that. And she's like, dude, she's like, fuck it, man. Just call it Jason Ashcraft's Helion Prime. Have a different singer on your albums and just fucking own that shit. And even when she said it, I kind of wasn't into it. I was like, I don't know if that's kind of the band I really want, And then again, I was just like, I don't, what are we doing? What's going on? Like, we haven't done anything in a while. And then on a completely separate occasion, Heather said basically the same thing to me. Like, dude, just call it Jason Ashcraft's Helion Prime. And, get different singers each album. I'm like, damn, here's two people I respect telling me the same thing. So that's when I really just started to kind of sit on it. And I was like, yeah, maybe this isn't a bad idea. I was like, it wouldn't be that far-fetched for those who know me. Like I said, I mentioned in my top 5, 2 of the bands are Arion and Avantasia. Mm-hmm. So it's not out of the blue for me to pull something like that. And even on everything I've done, Dire Peril, Planeswalker, every Prime album, we've never not had guest singers. So it's not like I don't like to bring in multiple singers, Did
either of them tell you to put Of Fire at the end of the name too?
No, but did you guys see my April Fools?
I don't think I did, no.
I did.
Oh, man. Go back and look at the Prime page on April 1st, and I revealed the new logo, and I did put Of Fire on it.
Perfect.
So
that's perfect.
Yep. It's one of those things like get ahead of the joke because they're coming. So if you own it, no one can really tear you down.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, yes, I'm aware of what this looks like. And so so moving forward, we'll just have different singers, and because that's the thing is like I'm friends with many phenomenal singers. Problem is They're all insanely busy with their own things. And what's the one thing holding up Helion Prime is a singer. And again, it's funny how things work out because, like I said, I have bands with both Sozos and Heather now, but for different reasons, nothing negative. We just couldn't seem to work within Prime, but we clearly work fine together, you know? And another great thing about this, though, is moving forward when Prime does perform live, I am going to use it as a vessel to perform all of my stuff. So now when you go to a Prime show, it won't just be Prime. You'll get Planeswalker songs, you'll get Of Romulus songs, you'll even get Dire Peril songs. So this goes back to that. Yeah, this goes back to that kind of umbrella because, again, these other bands like Planeswalker, I'm hopeful we can do shows, but it will probably be one-offs. You know what I mean? Like just maybe festivals and stuff, whatever I can get out of Sozos.
Right. Yeah.
But Of Romulus, like we played Mad with Power, but I had to like pull Heather's arms to talk her into that. And
it seemed like the show went really well for you guys.
Oh, dude, it went great. Like we sold out of merch. I think it's the first time I've ever sold out of merch. Our line was insane.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know, it is quite hilarious because Heather does, you know, there is no denying, like I make these comments, but I get it. I see why people miss Heather. I get it. I do for those. I sympathize, but we also got to face reality. But, you know, I think that return of Heather of Romulus, like that really excited people, you know? And, you know, the reception was really well, but it's also the same thing. Like even Of Romulus is going to be very slow, guys. And so just, you know, don't hold your breaths because we're doing it, but I'm also respecting her boundaries of like, I'll do this like when I can, when I'm feeling it, you know, when life gives me time kind of thing. So it's definitely not her main objective in life. Like music is mine, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then, yeah, back to the whole name change thing and everything. Like even before I did this, I went to Boston, my drummer, you know, cause he's basically been with me since day one. And I even told him,
Chelsea
like,
seem to pop up in like every corner of the Ashcraftverse, you might say.
Oh yeah, they're my rhythm crew that holds it down, and if I can get them, I'll get them. But I even asked him, I was like, "Look, dude, I'm thinking about doing this. I won't do it if you're uncomfortable with it. Like if by for some reason putting my name on the logo like makes you uncomfortable, then say so, and I'm not going to do it." And he's like, "Yeah, no, it's a great idea. It makes total sense to me." Like I basically explained the ideas and stuff behind it. So again, like I put that out there as just another, like, this isn't me throwing some ego around. Like it just feels like the natural way to move forward and to sort of be able to finally combine all these things I've been doing, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Into one vessel. So again, when I go out and play, you know, it's not like every show is going to be an equal amount of all projects because that's just not possible. But it's nice having that freedom and possibility that, hey, maybe this show we throw in a Planeswalker song, or maybe this show we throw in an Of Romulus song, or if we have a long enough set, we could do both, you know? And I think that's really cool, and that's really fun for me and for the fans of those projects that don't ever get to hear the songs. Now, of course, there'll be the ones that'll be mad that they don't get to hear it with Sozos and Heather, but I'm doing what I can, guys, you know?
It's like
you're not with getting what I got here.
You're not getting everyone together for Planeswalker and all these things all the time.
Yeah,
it's
if I had the resources to do it, I would. Okay?
Yeah, but it's so difficult, honestly.
Yep. Oh yeah.
It's
exactly so
the blessing and the curse of the internet era, because we can all find all these awesome people to work with from the other side of the planet, and then, well, that poses some limitations.
Yeah, unless you got a financial backing, it's kind of like we do what we got, you know, like that's the thing people don't realize. I live in an apartment. I record all this stuff in my little bedroom. I'm definitely not in a financial place to just, you know, like we make these comments like, I'm going to do an Avantasia Arion. The main difference is I don't have the financial backing that those two bands have. So I can't just pull all these singers together, you know?
Yeah.
But still, because that was the big thing with Sozos. You know, he came on for the second album when we first met him, the Terror album. And we were a little concerned with him in Europe, but, me being younger, naive, we signed to AFM Records, and, like everyone else, you think like, we signed to a label. We got it, baby. We did not have it. And so once we realized like, oh, damn, we're passing up these tours because we can't get Sozos to the States. And then we got offered that big Unleash the Archers tour for Apex. And we were just like, dude, we have to do this, And it's like, I guess we got to find a fill-in. And that's when we found Mary Zimmer, and she filled in for the tour. And that's when it was this realization of like, yeah, dude, if we actually want to thrive, like we're just not at a place where we can financially get Sozos out here for these things. And so that's the thing is like, so, Prime's just always had this series of unfortunate events. Like when Heather left, it's because, it's that story here all the time where the band wasn't supposed to take off like it did. The idea was always it was supposed to be essentially kind of what Of Romulus is now, But me, I had to ride with it. I was like, I can't just let this go, So she left. She's like, all right, well, because at the time she was still with Grave Shadow and committed to that. And she's like, I can't do 2. And Grave Shadow was first, for her. But she's, but since then she's like, kind of like, I don't want to do any of it, which is fine. It's her choice, But so she left. So again, no bad blood there. And then the issues with Sozos and Europe and visas and, we obviously got backlash because unfortunately when you're a band with a woman singer, it comes with a certain fan base. If you get angry at me saying that, you might be the fan base I'm talking about. And so people were very mad when we announced a male singer, that and rushing the album, I could go into a lot of this and that, but essentially it was just like, damn, we just can't financially do this. Plus we tried to get a visa once and it was just like denied because they're like, who is he? Who are you? I bet it'd be different now, but back then we just couldn't do it.
The whole visa thing always just seems like the biggest friggin' nightmare.
It is. Yeah. That's why Sozos and I have only played together twice, both Canadian shows, because we don't have to worry about visas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a problem. That's such a real problem. Because like if I can bring up something here, I remember when these, I think it was, to me, it was the first high level case of this. If you remember where Dragon Force changed their vocalists and they opened a worldwide audition process. And they were like, we are already an band made of international people, and we can get, no matter where you are, just get the best vocalists. And of course, Dragon Force already had all the resources to pull off anything. And then you guys doing it, I was like, oh, this is awesome that this is happening more. But then, you think for a bit, and it's like being in the US at the time where all the visas got stricter and more expensive, plus flight costs. And it's a point where you're like, I have the money to fly him in, but I depend on this thing being approved. I cannot even request it without having the tour already booked. And it's like, it's insane. So those Canada shows.
Yeah, and you spend over $1,000 and he could still get denied.
Yeah, and you lose the money. And then
there's no refund.
Yeah.
Because some guy from Cyprus is trying to take our jobs from the God-fearing American power metal singers. And
that's the thing, how brutal it is, because it's like you have to like prove like why only you can do this. And so it's like when you're a small band like we are, and he was at the time just some guy from Cyprus.
Yeah,
they were just like, I just imagine them laughing in the Visa Center or whatever. Just like, oh, nah, we're good. You know what I mean? So it's just like, so
you
again,
haven't even heard of Cyprus.
Yeah, right. This is made up. Someone's pulling a prank on Jerry. Was this you? Yeah.
Like when I think back of the story that the Prog Power people mentioned, that they had trouble clearing Galnerius for a visa.
Yeah.
And that's just insane.
You see it all the time with Prog Power. So it's like, if no one believes this, it's like, go look at any yearly post from Prog Power. You'll find a band that's had trouble. Dream Evil's had trouble so many times.
Yeah.
Like,
oh man.
And so it's just like that. So again, that was the reality of it. So there goes there goes Sozos. And then, you know, same with Mary, is like there were just some things kind of came up in her life where she's like, look, you know, I thought I'd be able to commit to touring a lot, but I can't. She's like, I know this really sucks, but she's like, that's just kind of how it is, and I'm very sorry. So again, it's like all these, it's like, that's what people don't see that side.
Yeah.
And so like, it's just all this negative of like, oh, this curse of Prime not being able to hold a singer. It's like, dude, like, I get how it looks. I might even think the same thing if I didn't know. So maybe because it's like, I'm in the know, it's very frustrating. But it's like, trust me, none of this is like, there's no bad blood anywhere. It's just all these unfortunate circumstances that for some reason, just keeping that vocalist in Prime is just like, nah, man. But then again, that's why I always revert to Planeswalker and of Romulus. I'm like, if this isn't proof that like we can still like everything's okay, I don't know what else I can give you, you know?
Yeah, it is nice to be able to say, look, there's no bad blood, there's no drama here.
Yeah. And, I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. I also believe that under the right circumstances, I can maybe even talk Heather or Sozos into a Prime show someday. Probably not a tour, but I love that possibility is there. That can make like a lot of certain shows very special, Yeah,
because I went to the Hyperspace show where I had all three like main singers on it, and having everyone there together felt like a very special moment for you, for the band, and everyone there. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another thing to look at. Like, dude, here we are all on stage, having a good time. And, that was a fantastic thing. And that was a bittersweet thing too, because I, there was a little time here where I did think Prime was done, because I was just like, I don't know if I can go through this again,
Yeah.
Finding a singer, losing a singer, just like I was like, I don't have the energy for that. So then when this sort of new idea came up about, well, just don't have a singer per se. And I was like, yeah, I mean, well, like I said, at first I wasn't into it, but the more I sat on it, I was like, well, why not? Because I know all these great singers I'm friends with, and so that gets me excited, because it's like, ooh, I can work with this person on this person on that, and then just hire a singer when I go on tour. And I know some people won't like that, but again, it's just like, someone's gonna be mad at something I do no matter what I do. So I might as well just go with what feels right.
This seems the most freeing for you, and also a like much better than nothing type of scenario for like the tours.
It enables you to keep doing music and everyone to keep enjoying and getting this music.
Everyone wins.
Everyone wins. Yeah, I think it's
except for people being little bitches, but
those are little bitches, so it doesn't matter.
Well, through the entire existence of Prime, I guarantee we'll get the I miss Heather people, and that's fine.
Yeah. But you'll be on your deathbed and you'll be like, that first album, man.
Dude, someone's gonna come to my deathbed just like, dude, I'm sorry you're dying, but man, like, I miss Heather.
And she's probably there, like sitting in the same room. And it's like, yeah, no.
Oh, dude. Oh, Heather, you're here? Can I get a photo? Gives me the phone, like, as I'm dying. Like,
as your dying act.
Yeah, like, I snap the photo and I'm gone. Like, funny. So that's a funny thing, too, is like, when we did that Archers tour, and at the time, Mary was still the fill-in vocalist, and some guy was talking to us. By us, I mean he was looking directly at Mary. Just like, oh, your band's amazing. You guys are awesome. I loved everything. Can I get a photo? And she's like, sure. And he just like hands me the phone. And I'm just like, well, okay. So we had a running joke for a while, like, you're just the songwriter, Jason. Shut up.
That's gonna happen. Honestly, that happens to everyone at some point, or multiple.
It does. I've learned very quickly. People love the singers, man. They don't give a fuck who wrote the song.
Yeah, I honestly try to tell people about songwriters as much as I can, and I try to feature them at least with the super music fans, because they deserve to be well known.
Oh yeah, and maybe because I'm a songwriter too, but I'm always like, who writes the songs? Who's that? I want to know that person.
Yeah.
But I think about that same tour, and I always laugh about this because, Unleash the Archers did VIP, obviously, and they all did really well. And I kind of got roped into taking the photos for the VIP because they didn't have somebody. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And after about the third or fourth show, they had to start making this sort of like line that people would have to walk through. So like a barricaded line, like pathway, because when people would come in for the VIP, it was kind of just like an open spot, and everyone would just go straight to Brittany, completely ignoring the gentleman in the band. So they made this little walkway where you had to go past the guys to get to Brittany. And so it's like you can't. So when I think about that and the whole Heather thing, like you really can't take it too personally because unfortunately that's just how it is.
That's just how it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so when you do get those one people who are ecstatic to like meet the songwriter, like it really does brighten your day though. You're like, oh, thank you. And I remember, it's funny too, because, I was doing what no artist should do. Because the single came out yesterday. Well, for us yesterday, whenever this podcast comes out, I don't know. And I was looking to see if it was posted on Reddit. And I saw from like 6 months ago, there was a Reddit thread of like, what do you guys think of Helion Prime? And I was like, don't do it. Don't do it, man. Don't click on that link.
You're gonna do it though.
That's just
I did. I totally did. Yeah. At first it started off very positive and I was like, oh, okay. But then like the deeper down you get, it's like, yeah. But there was one guy, man, who like was giving all credit to Heather and for all the good stuff. And then all the negative things was on me,
Yeah.
And I was like, okay,
it's almost like a twisted version of auteur theory or something to do it that way.
Yeah, because I chose to see this person. That means all the good things are there and nothing else exists. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, Jason said they would stick to science themes, but as soon as Heather left, he did sci-fi. So that shows that Heather was the one who was behind all the science stuff. And then someone's like, well, what about Question Everything? Well, yeah, because she came back to do the lyrics. And I was just like,
what?
Doesn't work that way, bud. Like, she might have wrote the lyrics, but it was my concepts.
Well, think about it this way. Someone cares enough about the stuff that you've made to make crack conspiracy theories about it. So, hey.
That is true.
Yeah, they are spending a lot of time on it.
Rent-free and all that.
Oh, yeah. And that's the funny thing, too, is I think that's what I get the kick out of most on Reddit, is I'm like, dude, some of these people, like, they talk like they know for a matter of fact, and I'm always very impressed how they seem to know more about my bands than I do,
Yeah.
They're just that smart.
It's not, they don't talk like I think, they talk like I know. Yeah. Like there's no other explanation for this.
Yeah. It's really hard reading all these things, and the less you pay attention to them, the better in general.
Right. But yeah, otherwise, having said that, because I don't want to come off as a negative Nancy here. It's just things I start to notice. But the reception, like 99% so far, has been positive, and that's the important thing. Like, and we had Sozos come back, and as you know, working with Sozos is just always a blast.
Yeah, we are so blessed.
When you first sent us the song, and I clicked on it, and I didn't know who the singer was going to be, and I just hear Sozos come in. I'm like, oh, hey, that's sick.
That's that guy. Yep. Oh, we didn't tell anyone besides Patreon up until the premiere. Like, I didn't even put his name on the YouTube title.
Right.
And then and it was funny because I didn't know Sozos was going to pop into the premiere, and like right as the song's starting, Sozos, they were like, hey, everyone, Sozos is here. I was like, oh, just wait. Yep. But that's the fun thing too, is like, being able to bring him back like that, and like any fun ideas, like, you just never know, because this, I don't want to put fuel into this fire, but maybe I can talk Heather into a song someday. I just don't know, but that's what makes this fun, is like there's so many possibilities now of what we can do.
Yeah, you just keep it all like a fun little surprise every time, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, I kind of like that. And again, I think it speaks to my being a big fan of like Avantasia Arion, because I think too, it's going to be weird now, but I think once people start to embrace it, I'm hoping that same excitement will come that people have when Arion does a new album and he does the whole guess the singer and people get excited. Ooh, who's it? You know what I mean? Like, I think we'll get there. It's just right now people are confused, you know, and that's fair because, you know, even though I've told people on my stream or I did a Q&A after, or like we're telling people here, this is still just a small percentage of people who just see it on their own in the wild and are like, what the hell's going on? You know? So I think in time,
signal boosting here, I guess.
Yeah. In time, as we do more people and it becomes the normal. Yeah. I'm hoping people will get more excited about like, oh, who's the singer going to be? And then especially with live, because that's a fun thing too. Because, you know, ooh, who's going to be singing at this show? Who's going to be singing on this tour? You know, and getting to hear other singers' interpretations of these songs, I think it's cool personally.
Yeah,
so,
I love that. That's always cool.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will understand that if they get to see those shows, because it's somewhat like it's not regular right now unless you are going to see Avantasia to see a bunch of people, and even then you don't get that much of a lineup change from tour to tour.
Yeah, you're always gonna have Yorn.
Yeah, exactly. and the people that switch for different tours, they're usually like there's 2 or 3 people for each specific part that are always the same. So it's not that, and it's always the same song. It doesn't feel that different. But with this, you can get really, truly different, cool versions, which is like, I don't know. It's like, oh, do you like hearing people do covers online? This is somewhat like, okay, I can go to the show and I will get this different interpretation every time. That sounds so cool.
I think of it like a musical. You know, when you go see a Broadway musical, it's obviously not the same people from the original recording because it can't be, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so you get to see this whole new interpretation of the songs and they're great, you know? And because that's the thing too, to also mention, I don't plan to go as heavy handed as Avantasia and Arion does. Like I have no plans to do like 10 singers per album.
Oh yeah.
Like I'll probably have one main singer and I'll probably have a guest here and there. Cause I still want these songs to be able to perform live. And as mentioned earlier in the podcast, I'm not at a level where I can just hire 10 singers to come on the road with me. So they still need to be able to be sung by one person. But I think that'll make it cool. And like we said, like this whole new interpretation and, you know, hopefully I can get singers that people like that, like, cause again, like I have a lot of friends that I could just be like, hey, you got anything planned in this particular month? Like you want to get hired and come out on the road, you know? And then that could be exciting, you know? And then someone could be like, ooh, can't wait to hear what this person does with these songs, you know? And so again, make it more of a good thing than sort of the negative thing it's been all these years.
Plus, you can also throw in your like covers with friends type of thing in there too, if it's a voice that fits whatever song you're trying to mess with.
Oh yeah, there's actually one particular one I think we'll talk about later that I really want to perform live because I think it just turned out awesome. But yeah, that'd be fun too. So, and that's the thing is like it's just like we can do whatever we want now. Like, you know, I'll probably still keep Prime, science / sci-fi. You know, that's what I've always wanted for the band. So it's not like we're gonna go write some fantasy album. You know, but who knows? You know, just there's a lot more freedom now. It feels like, and that's nice.
That's great.
A nice feeling.
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
great.
Yeah.
Looking forward to all the new things to come. Really.
Thank you. Me too. Oh yeah, I think you guys asked. Yeah, we totally went off of it. You asked earlier, like, what I could say if like the Sozos thing was a telling of what's to come. So just to touch on the single itself, this song is actually a prelude to what's going to be a pretty big epic story we're planning to tell.
Ooh.
I don't want to get into that yet because there's a good chance we won't even get the first part. So now you already know there's more than one part, but we won't get the first part until 2025.
Power metal people and their grand concepts over here.
Yeah.
We have to do it. Yeah. So it's really fun. It's something I've been sitting on for years, and it's funny because I never thought it'd be with Prime, but now it will be. But it's an idea I've had for a long time, and I hope it turns out as cool as I think it will. But yeah, but this particular song is meant to be a prelude to that. So as people listen to it and read the lyrics, if you're confused, that's okay. All will be revealed.
That's awesome. We have something juicy to look forward to then for some time to come. That's great. That's great.
Yeah. What I will say is just to, tease a little is the plan I have. I call it like the Helion Prime's 2-year plan. So all of this stuff is going to take, like, once it gets rolling, it's going to be a pretty big steamroller for about 2 years until everything's concluded. But that's going to be a lot of stuff in that 2 years. So needless to say, there's going to be a lot, it's not like we're doing this single and then going back into hibernation, there's a lot of things coming for sure.
The machine is working.
Yep, exactly. And now that the single's out, I was like just talking to them yesterday. I was like, all right, we did it. So it's time to get this baby rolling,
Yeah. I like the video that you guys made for the single. I want to mention that.
Oh, man. So
a lot of orb pondering.
Yes. The orb will be a big feature in those 2 years as well. I'll just say that also. And so, yeah. So quick shout out. All Good Media Productions did that music video for us. They're just starting up. They're local to us in Sacramento. And they were amazing. Like, cannot say enough good things about them. Literally, they went above and beyond to get this video done for me because they knew how important it was for me. And it would not be what it was without them. So, like, huge plug for All Good Media Productions. Check them out.
That's great. I really like the concept of the video. Works really well to really work with the fact that Sozos is not local to you and the production team, but it still feels like one cohesive video instead of the separate people coming together with all the black backgrounds and everything. Everyone with similar shots. It's really good.
Yeah, and that was important too, because even though Prime won't be having a permanent singer, I do still want it in its way to feel like it's still a band.
Yeah.
Yes,
I agree.
So making the video feel synchronized, if you will, that was important. Like, instead of like where we do a cover video and he just like sings in his studio room, like, I didn't want to do that. So, so shout out to Philip. I'm so sorry I don't remember his last name, but he lives in Cyprus with Sozos. Maybe we can like insert his name in later. Actually, let me look it up real quick. And
I can cut the space.
Okay. So shout out to Philip Zilfo. I hope I said that right. He edited and he filmed Sozos' parts in Cyprus. And, we were able to put it together. But, he followed the specifications that Corey from All Good Media gave. And they really worked together on, like you said, making it feel like a very cohesive video and not just like, here's Sozos randomly,
Yeah, because they match the background, the lighting, the mood, the colors, everything. So it's like you wouldn't think if you just watch the video that his parts were filmed halfway across the world.
Right. And funny enough, I really tried to get him over during the Glory Hammer tour because they actually had a day off before their Sacramento show. But unfortunately, the reason they had the day off is because it was a really long drive from the show before.
Right, yeah.
And, on bigger tours like that, the tour buses run on a schedule.
Yeah.
Like they legally have to. And so he's like, yeah, sorry, man, we're stopping halfway through for the night. And so he's like, I just can't do it. So, because like that would have been cool.
Yeah,
and, like, perfect timing.
That would have been great just to piggyback off that chance. But it's so hard with those tours. It's not as
Sozos is funny sometimes. Like, I love the guy, but sometimes it's like he doesn't always get what I'm asking, because it was like right before I guess the whole time he thought I was asking about recording his footage for like a cover or something. And he was just like, yeah, dude, I'll just do it when I get home. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then I brought up Prime again. He's like, oh, this is for Prime. And like, he went back and looked. He's like, oh, I missed that part. So like this whole 2 months I'm trying to like coordinate with him, he's thinking I'm talking about like a cover or something. So he was probably just like, yeah, sure, dude. I don't know. We'll see. Which would make sense. Like, yeah.
And also like he's doing a bunch of stuff as well. Like I know I am also throwing a bunch of work at him. So he's probably juggling a lot. I am sometimes concerned how many things he takes on. But he
every
ends
few
up
weeks
delivering.
there's like a new video of Sozos doing like a Sonata Arctic cover or Blind Guardian cover or something.
One would have thought that when he started doing Glory Hammer, those would slow down, but
they don't.
They don't.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure as you know, the dude records so fast.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, man. He's so good that he just, I'm
like he's
done it.
He's got himself a system.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got himself a system and it works. Like because he's been on like my stream.
Yeah,
live
I watched that. I watched the stream. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's really impressive because he has that.
Yeah. I've never worked with a singer as efficient as him.
Yeah, me neither.
With recording.
No, it was awesome.
Like just so fast.
When I started working with him, it's like, dude, you like I didn't understand at first, but eventually we talked about it because I remember asking him one time where we're doing a Neon song, and I was like, hey, I need you to record this by this time, and if you want, I can do the editing for you, so that you just send me whatever, and I'll do all the editing to save you some time. And he's like, oh, I just record the whole thing, and I'm like, what? You do what?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'll just do a take, and if it doesn't work, I delete it and I start again, and I do it all in one day. And it's like, what? You can't do that?
Yep.
And it sounds like that?
Yeah, he's
what is this level of vocalist? This is too much power.
Oh, dude, it's funny because when we first met with Prime and everything, like even back then I called it. I was like, this dude's gonna go somewhere. I don't know where, but somewhere.
Yeah.
And so, with the Glory Hammer thing, I was like, yeah, I'm not really shocked by this.
Yeah, no, of course. like I remember when you guys put up the auditions, the first thing that we did was like go into the EOS chat and like, Sozos, you should try it for this. And he's like, yeah, I'm recording it already. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, that's in the bag for sure.
Are you talking about for Prime?
Yeah, for Prime.
Man, and that's the funny thing too. Like we'd got quite a few auditions and stuff, and we weren't really sure where to go. And at the time, I wanted to stick with a woman vocalist because that's kind of what we established. And people would ask me like, "Oh, would you get a male singer?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. Like, probably not." And then like I was woken up by the group chat, like, "Dude, check out this audition we got." And like I watched it, and it was the Sozos one, and it was almost like instant, just like, yeah,
because he made it work. This is
a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It was like, again, it was sort of like, if my only reason for not choosing this guy is because he's a guy, like, what does that say?
Yeah, no, that's when you reevaluate everything. Like, my choices are not that strong. This is great stuff.
Yeah. And I
Fernando,
think that's
the
a
opportunity
beautiful.
to say you question everything was right there, and you didn't take it.
What?
Cut it. Let's try again.
No, don't cut it. It's funny to have me get mad
Roll
at
it
you.
back. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. But that's to bring it all around. That's a cool thing now too. Is like having Sozos back for the single. Is I'm also showing like, I'll get a woman, get a male, I'll get whoever I want to sing on the vocals.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, again, I don't expect everyone to be on board for it, but it's what feels right. And really that's what you got to do. And so, it's funny because on the same thing, going back to the Reddit thing where the guy seemed upset that I said I would stick with science, but then I did science fiction. It's like, oh, sorry, man. Like I'm allowed to, because the thing is like, I got to write what's inspiring me. And after doing Question Everything, that was like my big science album, you know? And after that, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to keep it science. What do I want to do? And nothing was inspiring me. And now this story I'm working on is. So it's like, would you rather have me working on something that's actually inspiring me, or me stick to something forcefully because, like, oh, well, I said I'll only do science, so I better just only do that. You know, I don't know. It's just
how dare an artist do things that they want to do? It's fucked up, man.
I'm so sorry. But that being said, like, you know, I enjoy writing about scientific, you know, things with Prime, and that still will very much be a thing. But, you know, I'm sorry, man. If I want to do some fun sci-fi, I feel like that's okay.
Yeah, and it still goes. Like I still see it. Like people show up, maybe to Reddit and places, and they are like, "Hey, are there any non-fantasy power metal sounding bands?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, Helion Prime. Go check it out." Like it's always there,
right? And that's another thing too. Is, you know, I mentioned, like we mentioned earlier, I don't know if we were just kind of chatting before we started the podcast or not, but mentioning how, like, I like to bring in a lot of inspiration outside of power metal. So, you know, I think what makes us power metal is in the vocals, but, you know, a friend of mine called me out and he's like, you guys are pretty much just metalcore with power metal vocals. And he's not wrong.
He's not entirely wrong in some aspects. Yeah.
Especially that first album, dude, is so inspired from early Trivium, like the metalcore days of Trivium and stuff like that. And so it's like, yeah, I mean, there's truth in there. And even to this day, Trivium remains one of my biggest influences songwriting wise. So, and funny enough, another band that I get inspired by a lot is In Flames, you know? So these two non-power metal bands are big inspirations as far as songwriting goes. And so, yeah.
That's great because it just makes for cool new things to come up. That's how you get cool new things. Mixing from different places.
Yeah, like when that's the thing too, is I don't really know what I'm doing when I'm writing this stuff. I'm just whatever's inspiring me in the moment. That's what I'm pulling from.
That's awesome.
And so we mentioned again, we were talking about the Dire Peril album, and that's very Iced Earth inspired. And even though that album came out after Prime, that album was actually written first. You know, it just took a long time to get out. And that was back in my early days where I was way more into thrash. I was way more into like Iced Earth. And you really hear that on that album. And it's funny because if I try to write a song like that now, it sounds very forced because it's just not what inspires me anymore.
Right.
You know? So that album is definitely an album that will probably just be what it is. But to try to do it again, I don't think I could because I don't write that kind of metal anymore.
Yeah, the time changes and you're not into the same things all the time, and you're not going to produce the same things all the time.
Exactly.
And I want to bring up, since we say that, just to round up a bit here, we know of a band that changed a lot over time that makes people like think, this is my favorite band, but only the first 2 albums. And then someone comes up and it's like, no, it's the second and third album. No, it's the 5th album. No, it's this one. And I want us to transition into Blind Guardian, because there will not be an episode of this podcast where we don't talk about Blind Guardian somehow. We have not broken that yet.
Well, good. Now we're getting into the important stuff here.
Now, I want to bring up Blind Guardian because they've been on tour. As of the recording of this episode, they wrapped up the North American leg of their tour that started last year, at the end of last year, worldwide tour.
They've been going freaking everywhere.
Yes.
Like they hit Latin America, Europe. I think they hit they even did Australia.
Yeah.
They finally did the US for the first time in like what 6, 7.5 years or something like that.
More than that.
It's been forever.
It feels like it's almost been a decade. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that could be wrong. It's been a long time.
And the coolest thing for me about this, for all these years that we've been talking about Blind Guardian and all the friends that we've made in the power metal community, this huge world tour, basically all of our friends have gone to a show of this tour over the past months. And they've been doing a set list that's at the core the same, but they change up 2 to 4 songs depending on the area and the show. So it's been really fun to follow all these previous months and seeing like, oh man, I saw Blind Guardian yesterday and they did, and we would put spoilers just in case for the people that hadn't gone. It's like, yeah, I saw this and they did this song, and then someone goes the next day, I saw them here and they did this song, and it's like, whoa, that's awesome. And then the next week, oh, now I'm going here, blah blah blah. All our friends from all the places that we mentioned, like I saw them here in Buenos Aires at the end of last year. We have a friend that saw them in Australia, the US friends here, you guys, the Europe guys, everyone getting this. I really love seeing this because I've never had this experience before of like.
It's been this like unifying event across the world.
It was
for our little
it's
community.
Honestly great to see because, not to get a bunch of heated eyes on me, but a lot of modern power metal is not really my jam.
Oh, I agree.
And
don't worry.
It's really great to see that Blind Guardian can still bring out everybody together. Like there just isn't a band like Blind Guardian.
Yeah.
And I love seeing that they're still getting that respect and recognition,
Yeah, I went to the shows in LA and San Francisco for this tour, and when I was leaving the LA show, I just overheard some random guy being like, oh, I see why everyone loves them now. And I'm like, yes, we got one.
Oh,
He
bro,
gets it.
did we not say hi in San Francisco?
I guess not. I was like right at the front for like the whole show. I missed you at the Sacramento Gloryhammer show tour, so we both blend in. We're both dudes with long hair and black shirts, It's,
yeah. Well, these days I'm wearing these silly button-up shirts, but but yeah. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off though, but I was like, oh damn, we were at the same show.
Yeah, so I'm an easy guy to miss. But yes, I was at the LA and San Francisco shows, and the response to both of these, I think, was just incredible compared to like any other show I've been to in the last few years. Just like you get the crowd singing along to everything, and you get like tons of moshing and all the crazy fast songs that they're doing. And like Blind Guardian, they're like 60 years old, and like they're so like humble looking on stage. Hansi looks like a math teacher. He's doing his goofy dad
dude,
humor.
He's the uncle.
Yeah,
he's the power metal uncle, dude.
Yeah, he's all of our power metal uncle, and it's I don't know how this guy who's just seems so like quiet and pleasant, and then just has this monster of a voice. Andre and Marcus are just shredding the absolute shit out of their guitars. Frederick's a monster. Like, I don't get how this happens. And he commands the stage and the whole audience with his magic 2-finger point of good singing.
Yeah.
I don't get
And that's the thing is, he doesn't do that much, but still we're all captivated.
Yes, exactly.
He has the energy in those 2 fingers that an entire singer needs to like bring everything for.
He's not even hitting like, his knee in time with the rhythm.
Right? Oh man.
He doesn't have to do like the whoa or the clapping. It's just like it just works. I don't get it.
Dude, and I'm glad you mentioned the people singing along and just that whole unity, because people be like, well, other bands do that. And it's like, it's different with a Guardian show, man. Tell me one other band that has a moment like Bard Song, like this magical moment.
Yeah.
Where literally we all come together, dude. It's so, and even the ending of Valhalla, like I don't really see that. Like yes, there's like, all right, everybody after me. Whoa, 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 or whatever. But like, dude, to have a song like Bard Song, where he probably sang 5% of it and the crowd took the rest, like that's a magical moment, man.
And that's what like every one of those shows has been like for at least like 20 years. Like if you watch the Imagination Through the Looking Glass, which is I guess like the earliest live show of theirs I've watched, all the like the tropes are there of like the crowd singing Bard song, extended Valhalla ending, and the crowd just makes that happen.
Yeah, I've even seen footage from before that, like Nightfall era, and crowds still singing Bard song. So it's like, damn, you boys really, like, you just got to think, like, there's no way they knew when they wrote that song it would become this.
Yeah, even like
how
Valhalla,
you know?
they said was like a throwaway song on Follow the Blind. They didn't think it was going to be like the thing,
right? Dude, that's just they got the hook. It's what they needed. And but yeah, man, like, you know, I feel like as an artist myself, sometimes shows I get jaded because it's hard not to look through the lens as an artist.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But even when I went to Guardian, dude, all that was shut down. I was like, I am not an artist tonight. I'm that 14-year-old kid who discovered this band. And it's like that every time I see them. You know?
Yeah. Blind Guardian was my first live show when I was like 20. And I've been chasing that high ever since.
They should have been my first. Very unfortunate story when I was 14 again. I think I discovered them maybe more around 12, but 14 was the year I was supposed to see them with Symphony X. Dude, what a show, man. Odyssey just came out for Symphony X. A Night at the Opera just came out for Blind Guardian. And I went to go see them in San Francisco, but Blind Guardian's bus broke down in Seattle.
Oh, no.
So they didn't make it. So Symphony X for the headliners that night. At that time, I didn't know Symphony X. So I was like, no Blind Guardian, you know? Obviously fell in love with Symphony X. And they just like brought in some local bands to cover, you know, to fill in the bill. So Guardian should have been my first power metal show. Unfortunately, they were not.
Yeah, like I was too young at the time to really like known about anything at that point, but like a Symphony X Odyssey and Blind Guardian Night at the Opera Tour sounds like fan fiction to me. It's weird to think that was real.
Yeah, together. Yeah, it's crazy. You know, because that, unfortunately, not that Frederick isn't amazing, but that was the last tour with Thoman on drums.
Oh yeah, it would have been.
So that would have been nice to be like, hey, at least I saw Thoman once, because funny enough, Night at the Opera, you know, even though I'm not a drummer, A Night at the Opera, the Blind Guardian album, not the Queen album, I always reference as one of my favorite drum performances. Just Thoman just killed it on that album as far as drums go. And obviously Frederick does it justice, but it still would have been cool to like see the guy behind the kit who tracked it live, you know?
I think this kind of ties in with like the stuff that you go through with the singers, but like I'll see people still refer to Frederick as like the new Blind Guardian drummer when he's been there for like 20 fucking years, like just as long as Tom was
that's
there.
just how it works.
It's just this funny human nature thing. I think.
It's like Robert Trujillo being the new bass player of Metallica. He's been for more time than all the other bass players combined, but he's still the new dude. He will always be.
Or I think about you know, I mean, Halloween has both singers now.
Yeah, but
you know, before God, what's his name? Andy
Darius. Yeah.
And yeah, it's like, dude, he's before they kind of did the whole Pumpkins United. It's like he's been in the band far longer than Michael has. He's the Halloween singer, whether you want to admit it or not.
I mean, Kiski was in the band for what, like 2 years or something back in the day.
I think a little longer, because he did at least 3 or 4 albums.
Oh, I always forget about the ones like after Keepers for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I love how this goes full circle. As we're sitting here saying, you know, people will be mentioning Heather till my deathbed. That's just how it is, you know?
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, I don't know. It's just how it is. Like, because they were there for the history, right? Michael was on the Keeper albums, easily the most popular Halloween album. So that's what people hear when you think of Halloween. And to be fair, I do too. So it's like, I get it in a small sense, but I also respect, like, yeah, Frederick's paid his dues. Robert has paid his dues. Like, you know, leave him alone. Leave that millionaire Robert alone, damn it. You're hurting him. No, I'm sure he's fine.
Fernando, you mentioned earlier about the Blind Guardian shows. Like swapping out songs between shows was really cool. Just like me going to shows 2 nights in a row. being like, oh, hey, this is different. Oh, I didn't get that song last time. It did make for an extra surprise. So, like, for example, the show in LA had Into the Storm and Welcome to Dying as songs that then got swapped out for, I think it was Quest for Tanalorn and Delivers from Evil. So it's like, there's just too many good songs in their, like, 10-album discography for me to be like, oh, I can't get mad at this because it's always good.
Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't get Majesty. Like, no Majesty in the other fucking California show pissed me off, but whatever.
I got Majesty because I went to Utah.
Oh, you went to that one.
So I did San Francisco and Utah, and because I went and hung out with Chad, my boy Chad, and we saw
because
them
Judicator
together.
opened for them there, which is, I think, pretty cool for them.
That was because I think they were the only local band at all.
Yeah.
I didn't hear
got
of any other local openers other than Judicator.
I saw they mentioned them specifically. They posted a photo of the wrap up of the North American tour, and they were thank you for blah blah and for Judicator for opening for us in this one. You guys are friends.
Well, good for them.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. No, it is good for them.
I didn't check. Did Hansi sing on Spiritual Treason, the live version?
No.
Or, that would have been sick.
It's really funny because John said he didn't want to push it,
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would have fucking asked. Like, I don't know if I
you,
had Hansi.
You already have the no. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's done 2 songs with you. He okayed you to be on the show. If he says no, it's not like he's even like, you know what? That's it. You asked too many. You're done. Like,
yeah.
The worst thing he would do is be like, no, I can't. I don't have the time. But I get it. Because I have friends in higher places, and I'm very cautious not to abuse that and like ask too much of them.
Yeah.
So I get it. There's that like line you want to walk of like, you are their buddy, but they are who they are. So you don't want to abuse that or make it feel like you're abusing it. Yeah. And so I get it in a way, but I think I still would have asked because. When's it going to happen again? We don't even know when's Guardian going to be back. Who knows, right?
That was part of my inspiration for going to multiple shows. Just like, who the fuck knows when or if they're going to be back in the U.S. I need to take advantage of this.
Yeah,
exactly.
And
so remind me, so you said you saw L.A. and San Francisco. Are
you
more down south?
I live in Central California right now. I'm in San Luis Obispo area, which makes going to shows...
I was just there with my dog.
Oh, it's a beautiful area.
It is. We went to the drive-in, your one drive-in, and saw Godzilla.
I haven't been to that yet. I was supposed to go during COVID, and then I never bothered because it's like, wow, a drive-in still
I've been super
exists.
into drive-ins lately. I don't know why. It's just that because I think because I can bring Tobi.
Oh yeah,
so
that makes sense.
Yeah. But
speaking of Tobi, I like that your cover videos all featured him.
Oh yes, he will be in every single one as long as I can.
Excellent.
Perfect.
But yeah, living in the Central Coast of California, beautiful area, at least a 3 or 4 hour drive from any cool power metal show.
Right. So that's kind of the thing is like, well, it's the same distance each way. So
yeah, I'm always picking between SoCal and NorCal for shows. And then for them, I took the train and then I took the train down and then flew up the day after to make everything work. I also went to the Insomnium show the day after because why not?
I was there too.
Oh, God damn it.
That's hilarious because Wilderun played.
Yeah.
And my guitarist Alon was filling in on bass for them. So
I was like, that guy looks so familiar. Where have I seen him before?
Yep. So I went out and supported them.
Yeah, I couldn't really talk much after 2 nights of Blind Guardian shows. So I basically just stood in the back and nodded along with a beer in my hand. I was that guy. But I felt like this mellow death prog show was just like my cool down from all the singing at Blind Guardian.
100%. And the same too, I was a little more in the back of Guardian, but like I said, Guardian's one of the few bands that can make me turn it off and just be that young teenager again. So I was definitely getting into it, singing along. And then, at the show the next night, I was a little more like, all right, I'm going to chill. So same vibes as you, for sure.
Yeah, and I do want to mention on the Blind Guardian shows, the opener Night Demon, being some just really solid, straightforward heavy metal. Basically, no real banter or stage gimmicks outside of the little Grim Reaper thing they do once, and just playing cool songs. I thought they were really good.
I think I missed that. They brought a Grim Reaper out.
Yeah, they don't make a big deal out of it. There's a song about drinking from a chalice, and they have a Grim Reaper with glowing eyes and like pretends to like pour stuff from a chalice on the guys as they're playing the songs. It's very unexpected because it's like we've had 45 minutes of no gimmicks, and then to have
completely missed that somehow. Yeah,
yeah. But
the second night in Utah, admittedly, I didn't watch them because I was hanging out with Chad.
Sure.
But the first night in San Francisco, I watched them, and somehow I didn't see that. But right on.
Well, see, they don't need it. You know, it's fine.
Yep.
I was slightly confused when I first saw them because I'm like, oh, did they do that song Night of the Demon? Like, no, that's by Demon. Demon did Night of the Demon, not Night Demon. So anyone was confused. Yes.
Just saying. Yeah.
I want to bring up, this is my little bragging corner that happens sometimes when we talk about these shows. My set list was superior to everyone else's. From like, as usual, the Latin American shows, they really get the best things because we got the usual songs. We got Majesty. We got Welcome to Dying. We got The Quest for Tanalorn. We got Time Stand Still. Plus all the new songs and everything. Welcome to Dying was actually a crowd request. Everyone was shouting "Welcome to Dying" between each song till they actually played.
It's one of the few bands that actually will take crowd requests if you're annoying enough about it.
We were really annoying about it.
I love that about them, by the way.
Yeah, it was great.
A lot of bands just couldn't, because they
don't have them prepared, so they can't just whip them out like nothing.
Yep.
And
to be fair, there's nothing wrong with that because I probably couldn't either.
Yeah, obviously.
Like if we don't have it, if we don't have it prepared in the set list, probably couldn't do it.
It's a very special thing. Everyone has to be at the top of their game and know all these songs. Obviously, they've been playing for so long that they probably know most of them.
Yeah. When you're done, remind me to tell you something that just blew my mind. But go ahead and finish.
Oh yeah, just want to say like that they've been playing for so long, they can't do these things. But they still refused at one point, very clearly, like because we were the crowd started chanting "Welcome to Dying, Welcome to Dying," and we all joined in, right? And they were like, "No, maybe," blah. And then at one point they were, "Okay, we're gonna do it." And then we were requesting. I don't remember right now which one it was. Was it like Battlefield or something? So
they're not going to play Battlefield.
Exactly. One of those songs that they never
literally
do
die
live. And like, I think it was Andre that just looked to the side where the guy that was shouting the loudest, and he looked at him like angry and it's like, no, just moving his finger. Like, we're not doing that.
However, I don't even know how it would feel if they actually played Battlefield though.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was Battlefield or one. It was one of those that they never play. It's like
if we all saw that day. Oh man.
Yeah. I know they've said like they've tried, but like it doesn't work out with like all the layers and shit that they have to do.
Yeah.
But like I don't
care
if it's
so
compromised.
Many vocals in that song.
Just like I know when we were in Japan a couple years ago, and at the karaoke there they had Battlefield as one of the songs, and I'm like, oh, I gotta try this. Let me tell you, huge fucking mistake. Pretty much impossible. And like I'm bad at singing no matter what, but to try even attempt something like that was I think even worse, and totally worth it.
Yeah, but they caved in. I know now they had it on the rotating list of songs, but we had 17 songs on our show.
Wow.
So it was huge. It just kept going, and they doing that when people were actually asking for it. That was great. And then we got like those. The anchor was like that. It was Sacred Worlds, Lord of the Rings, Welcome to Dying, Valhalla.
Oh, you got Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Mirror.
I haven't seen Lord of the Rings. I want to get that one.
And the Quest for Tanalorn.
I don't think I've seen that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what song I would love? There's two songs I am waiting for. Time, What is Time, which I know they played on their last tour, but it was one of the
Summer Far Beyond like full album thing, which I am dying to see.
Which didn't come to the States.
It's just fucked up.
Oh man, So Time, What is Time, and I want to see The Hobbit live.
Ooh,
there's your deep cut there. No, they always just do the first part of the Bard song, not the second part.
I don't know why, but The Hobbit is one of my top favorite Guardian songs. It's so short,
incredible,
it's so simple, but it's just so good. I love that song.
The Summer Far Beyond title track is like one of my all-time favorites, and
Yeah.
They never
me
play
too.
that live except for on the full album show.
They they should. I was very sad we didn't get that in the States because then I would have got the 2 songs I wanted plus more. And come on, Guardian, just do it.
Just do it.
If you hear this, please.
I was thinking like if I could make like my Dream Blind Guardian set list, it'd be like 5 hours long and they would all drop dead halfway through. But man, it'd be worth it. It'd be the best power metal show ever.
No openers, just
and like at the first show that I saw them at, they did Majesty by crowd request because the whole crowd was shouting at it. And to have that in your first metal show and just be like, wow, is this just like a thing that happens? And it's like, no, that's not a thing that happens.
It is not. You're at all the shows just yelling at the bands. And
exactly.
You're like, why are all these bands annoyed at me? I don't get
Why
it.
won't they play Majesty by playing Guardian at this Nightwish show?
Right?
Fuck.
Honestly,
Dude, that'd be hilarious.
we do that a lot here. Like, it's very common. We don't give a fuck. We just annoy the bands. Like, yeah, play this song. And it's usually a song that is like, we haven't played that in 20 years. What are you talking about? Why is this song popular here? It happens so much.
Like, I don't remember writing it. They're like, what? They're like looking it up like, oh shit, we did write that. Yeah.
I need to go to a Latin American metal show one of these days. I'll probably die, but it sounds like an experience.
They are great.
Yep.
Best. Always the best.
Well, that's a crazy thing to think about too, though, mentioning that, because Majesty's first album, Guardian.
Mhm.
So for them, and it's not exactly a short, simple song.
No.
So to have that on retainer when people request it is wild. Like, it's one of their longest, at least guitar-wise, complex. Like, so it's not like, again, like going back to The Hobbit, like that's a pretty simple 3-minute song, in and out, done. But to just have Majesty ready to go, like, yeah, maybe we'll play it, you know? That's crazy.
It is, yeah.
And like playing Blind Guardian, they're I think like my parents' age basically.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so weird to think about like my dad or whoever up on stage doing shit like that. I'm like, my God.
Yeah,
How
because
is this possible?
that's the thing. They are in their mid-50s, all of them. But of course, they've been doing this for 40 years, 35.
Yeah, like 40 years, I think.
Yeah, so they have all this experience that just stacks on it. So they should always, when bands do things right, they just get better because it's more practice and more skills, more new skills applied to all their songs. It's
well, even now when I think like me and my projects and I'm finally reaching this higher level, and then I go see a band like Guardian and I'm like, who am I kidding? I got
it's a long staircase to traverse.
Yeah, and they're coming from a very different era too.
They are. They really are. But that's what I was going to mention when I said remind me. So at the Utah show, what's cool is like outside the venue, they have these speakers that plays the direct live sound.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, wow.
And so like it actually was a little clearer to hear out there than inside because you're not getting that room sound.
Right.
But I left during the encore because I did see it in Sacramento or San Francisco. And I was helping Chad load his stuff up, but I'm sitting there for a second, like listening to Guardian play through these speakers, which was like the direct live in, and it was fucking flawless.
Yeah.
And I was like, how? Like, not a single little oops or ouch or whatever. Like, I was like, this sounds like a fucking studio album.
That's something
like they were just.
That's so important because that's something that happens to us. That we are recording and editing and working with musicians that are like from starting to middle of the road in terms of like the life cycle of a band, and we kind of forget the level that big bands have consistently. That because it happens, the same thing that you mentioned happened to me. Like after a while, I remember going to an Angra show, and it's like and listening to them like. Paying attention, and it's like, dude, they are good. Like you can play because I got like lost in the small band middle ground, which is understandable that you're playing things that are designed to be difficult, And then it's like, oh, you can reach these things. And then we saw with Kyle, we saw Galnerius in Japan, and that's a whole other level of performance that is like, dude, you can reach that, and there's so much to cover, there's so much to do, and you always got to strive to be that much better.
Absolutely.
Because it translates.
And funny enough, on that level, I love working with people I consider better than me. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but to give an example, and no spoilers here, but we have been working on some new Planeswalker stuff, and already working with Sozos is just like, oh damn, dude. But even like just his songwriting skills, I'm just like, let me go back to my riffs, I guess, But
have you noticed if he's like got like a different like perspective on producing music since joining Gloryhammer at this like larger scale project?
I haven't yet, because we've only really been kind of working on one song. I don't know if maybe you have with Eons Enthroned.
So the way we work with Eons, there hasn't been a big change. The only change is his performance level. He just got better.
His performance has
because
definitely gone
once
up,
he
dude.
started working, went on recording the Gloryhammer album. It was for the album that he went to the studio with a producer to record. Because all this time he's been like winging it based on raw live singing skill.
Mm-hmm.
And now he was in a booth, and he had a dude on the desk telling him, you need to do that phrase again. You need to do that more clear. You need to do that more. I'm pushing him even further. So now, even when he's recording by himself, he's better because he's been pushed that much farther.
Yep.
So I don't know if production style changed, because the way we work with Eons, we have a couple songwriters, and we just give him songs that are mostly done, and he just maybe makes some changes to the lead line. For this album, he hasn't written any full songs, so it's just mostly here, make this a little bit better and just destroy it singing. That's
right.
But he's better. He's just better.
Yeah. But yeah, with this kind of new Planeswalker stuff, and this, by the way, this isn't to knock on the people I work with in like Prime and stuff, because I love all of them and they're all amazing.
Obviously, of course.
But branching out now, like this Planeswalker won't have Chelsea and Alex. Sozos wanted to bring one of his drummer buddies in, Stefanos. I don't know if either of you know him.
No.
And then Carlos Alvarez is doing bass on it. And, I've been working on him for a while. But, dude, it's just like listening to all of them. I'm just like, damn, I feel like I'm the least adequate one here. But the thing is
kind of a good thing, though.
I love that, honestly.
I was going to say, I like that, because I'm just like, this is going to make me fucking like step it up. You
got to step up. That's great.
Yeah. And even like with doing the Planeswalker album with Sozos, our writing style is very different, but seeing the things he just pulls out of nowhere, it's just like, damn, dude. And again, like I like it, because it's like, even Sozos kind of told me, when he heard the new Prime song, he's like, well, that, and then, so that he said it sounded really good, but no, when I sent him some stuff for the new Planeswalker song, he made a comment that made me feel really good. He's like, damn, dude, you've like really stepped up since the first Planeswalker album. And I do give a lot of that credit to like doing the first one with him, like being like, all right, okay, so this is the level we're going to do. All right, time, because some people could take it and be intimidated by it and go in a negative way, but I take it as like, all right, so this is where I got to be, So I love that, working with, so I think what I was going at with this is where you're talking about like getting to these other levels. You should always be striving to get better. And I think working with people who you view as better than you shouldn't be a negative thing, because if you just are like, if you feel, well, one, you should never feel like you're the best, because there's always someone better.
Yeah.
But if you feel there's no challenge there for you to overcome, what's the goal there? What are you striving for? And, even just looking from the first Prime album to now, you know, and that's another thing to go to Prime and all the negative things we get, because unfortunately, like, you know, unfortunately Prime had to be the stepping stones for me in learning a lot of things. But because the first album did as well as it did, I didn't really get that luxury of learning these mistakes in private.
Right.
It was like all eyes on us while we did.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things besides vocal changes about Prime that I wish could be different, production-wise, performance-wise, you know? And that's why I think, like, look at how well the Planeswalker album did. Look at how well the Of Romulus songs are doing, because it's like now I'm finally finding that groove. And unfortunately, it's like Prime had to be the thing that paid a little bit for it. Because then even look at the new Prime song, and I feel like it's one of our strongest performance-wise, production-wise to date. And so, you know, Prime unfortunately had to be the band that had to suffer. But it's a good reminder too, because, like, you know, I feel like it a little better each time. And then again, working with guys like Sozos, which is why I'm grateful. Because like you mentioned with Eons, you guys kind of present him stuff. And, you know, I did that with Prime too. But now I love working with him as songwriters together with Planeswalker, because it really pushes me to, like, all right, these are my expectations for myself now, you know?
Yeah, and actually listening to the Planeswalker, the first album, I was like, yeah, I don't. It's like, if you want to write for Eons, send me a song. That's all it takes. there's no like.
That's why we're doing this podcast, just to get another Eons guy.
Yeah.
Well, Sozos wrote the whole first album, so he'd be the guy to talk to on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was.
But this new song we're doing is very 50-50. And that's what we're trying to find, is that balance. Because Sozos did say, he's like, you know, one thing I like about you is your riffs, your heavy riffs. And so we want a good balance of that, but very much still in line of kind of what he brought to the table on that first album. Because otherwise it's just Planeswalker again if I write everything. And I don't want, or sorry, it's just Prime again if I write everything, you know?
Right.
And I don't want that. So basically what we do with Planeswalker is I present him what I got, because, you know, at the end of the day, I'm very limited. I know what I know. I write what I write. It's still going to sound like me. So I pretty much give him stuff, and I'm like, here you go. Dissect it all you want. And that's kind of what makes Planeswalker, you know?
Yeah, man, that's great. And that's a great album. And there's other great albums that we can talk about. Because sometimes,
a lot of stuff coming
on
up.
occasion here, we talk about new albums.
We've been doing more of that.
But, you know, some people, I'm sure some people think that we don't keep up. And maybe sometimes they are right. But
I have a spreadsheet, damn it, of the new releases I've listened to each year.
Kyle has a spreadsheet, so we can rely on him. And I think we should talk a bit about what I think is like the biggest news for a little corner of the internet for these past weeks, which is Unleash the Archers. Their new album is finally out, and we listened to it in all its glory after the singles. And Jason, have you listened to this album? Since we have,
I have.
You have. That's
I have.
Perfect. So our listeners,
the only one.
Our listeners are gonna get one of the rare occasions when you have an extra opinion here. It's gonna be interesting. I want to open up with something that I hope is not controversial. If you ever heard my opinions, I'm not a fan of this album. Personally, I'm not sure I understand what they're doing.
I guess to back up for it real quick, though.
Yeah.
Where do you kind of stand on Unleash the Archers just as a default?
I was never a fan.
Do you like Apex? Okay, 12.
I liked some of the ideas in, which one was it? Abyss
Abyss
maybe? Was the one that was
their famous ones.
Yeah, but Apex is like the more the cohesive one, and Abyss is like the different ideas one, right?
Right. Yeah.
So the different ideas one, I like many of those ideas better than their usual sound. And then in this one, I know it feels like they're doing less fast heavy metal and more. It's more rock sounding overall.
I'd say yes and no to that. So I'm I think much more positive on the album than you are, but I mostly like the first half of it, which is where most of like the, I guess you could say, more traditional fast power metal-y stuff is.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like I don't like slow songs and I only like fast songs. That's not where my
It's only somewhat true
opinion comes from. Yeah, but that's not it here. It's the general vibe and the general sound. It's not particularly what I enjoy the most, but it sounds like a cohesive concept album, which is more than many people can say.
Like leading up to the album, when they had the singles coming out, I was sort of hitting. They're kind of hit and miss for me. I like Screen and Glass, and I think parts of Seeking Vengeance. So, but then some of the other ones, where I'm like, I don't know if I'm feeling this. Especially when they played Ghost in the Mist at the festivals last year, and I'm like, oh, this is not really the direction I expected them to take. But I'm like, okay, it's gonna be a story, a concept. I want to have all this in context. And then when the album came out, and I saw all the singles were basically like the end of the album, I thought that was a really odd choice. And then when I started going through like the beginning of it, and it was a lot more of those faster tracks that you sort of expect from Unleash the Archers, I'm like, well, why the hell did they make all the singles like the slower songs? Well, sort of. And so like when I've gone through this album a few times now, I've gone through with the lyrics, trying to like understand like the story that they're telling and how this all fits together. And I'd say it kind of makes more sense, and in some ways it kind of doesn't. I can do my whole like personal lore breakdown, which I guess I sometimes do when we talk about concept albums. If you want me to get into that, Fernando, I'm assuming you haven't paid any attention to the story and all that.
No. That's my shtick.
Cool.
I have really not. But also, I want to hear your opinion, Jason. All opinions are welcome. It's fine. I'm not going to be angry if you like it.
Oh, yeah, no worries. I was just kind of waiting for you guys to give your opinions and stuff. But, you know, I like the album. You know, talking on why they chose the singles they chose, I guess from an artist perspective, I get it. You know... For us power metal fans, it's like, why did you put this banger out? But you got to be a little strategic about it. And while you do want the power metal fans to like it, when you're kind of the level they are,
you want everyone to like the singles.
You have to expand. So you don't want to put all the fast bangers out as singles. You need to put those more approachable ones. I hate to use the word commercial ones, but it's true.
It's true,
it's all a strategic. It's a strategic plan, you know, like, and, you know, one of my favorite songs on the album is Green and Glass, the first single. But why is it reminds me so much of an Avantasia song, but done by Unleash the Archers. So I can see where Archers fans might not enjoy that. But as someone who is, again, already said that one of my favorite bands is Avantasia, I'm like, oh, hell yeah, let's go, you know, because it gives me that vibe, but then there's still like that little heaviness of Archers. So Green and Glass is still one of my favorites on the album. But, you know, to show that I'm being fair and I'm not just like, you know, praising up the homies, Blood Empress I thought was okay. Didn't really stick with me. But overall, I like the album because Give It Up or Give It All, that kind of big long ballad.
So that's the like controversial centerpiece, I'd say, of the album.
And I absolutely love it. But anyone who knows me knows I'm a sucker for a good ballad. So
because like I see like the sentiment of like, why the fuck is this power metal band making a 7-minute long ballad? That seems like a death sentence. But like for me, when I was listening to this, I'm like, wow, this song is really long. But like, I think it works. It's more than just like your standard boring power metal ballad. Like there's a lot going on here, and I think it works for the story of being. For me, the song serves as this like pretending it's like a movie. This is like the like second act low point where the protagonist has gone through some shit and they need to pick themselves up, and so they're doing that through the form of this like potentially overly long 80s like power ballad type of thing with some extra bits thrown in there at the end. I think the song works pretty well for what it's trying to do. I wish it was maybe a minute or two shorter would be fine. but I think that's a very interesting like spot to like focus on with this album.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I don't know. I loved it instantly. Full honesty, I've listened to the album like twice while driving. So as I go along, as far as it being too long, when you're kind of driving, maybe you don't notice it as much because you're also focused on your destination. But man, I do think there's some bangers though. Buried in Code and The Collective are fucking great.
Those are also great. I can't help but feel like Buried in Code is like gonna really appeal to the like 80% of their fan base that's probably like programmers or something. Be like, oh dude, it's literally me. I'm buried in the code.
Well, and again, to go back to like thinking strategically, I was talking to Andrew as I was listening to it because again, songwriter to songwriter feels good,
right?
When someone kind of like lifts you up, like and I was straight up like, dude, why wasn't this a single? Because again, it's that real power metal-y one, the big old chorus, and again, it was the same thing. He's like, well, we talked about it, but again, it's like, sure, we could throw out this big power metal thing for the single. And, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to paraphrase or speak for him, because I don't exactly remember the entire conversation, but it was definitely like, let's kind of put out these other ones that are appealing to more people. Cause again, like Green and Glass, that makes me think of Avantasia. So maybe you appeal more to the ones that like, oh, I don't really like the heavy riffs all the time, but then it's still a good sort of mid-paced power metal-y anthem. So it's like you can kind of get a bunch of people instead of the people who like the, like not every single can be Faster Than Light,
Yeah. Obviously.
And so
I really like Faster Than Light though.
I fucking love that song. It's one of my favorite Archer songs. So it's not like it would hurt them to do it, but I get their reasonings why they didn't, and I've seen jokes on the internet of like, oh, it's just Unleash the Sleeper Ship, because that's Andrew's like side band. And I guess I take that personal as a songwriter. I'm like, you know what? Maybe it is, but he writes the fucking music, So got your back, Andrew, if you're listening. No,
I don't think he listens to us.
I'll send it to him, dude. Don't worry. Like, hey, these guys are talking shit on you, man.
Yeah, put us on blast.
Just kidding.
We can take it. Wait.
I've said plenty of nice things about them in the past.
Yeah, we have. So really, like,
they're lovely people.
We are sure they're lovely people. Now that the reality is that,
but no, I like the album overall for sure.
Yeah, it's just I think it's just not my thing. That's all, because it's not technically. It doesn't have anything wrong with it, honestly.
Yeah. And this goes back to my comment earlier where a lot of modern power metal doesn't really do it for me. As someone who's trying to grow in the power metal scene, I almost feel icky saying that. But if the music doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't resonate with you.
Yeah.
And this isn't to say these are bad albums. It's just whatever I'm looking for in my music, they're not offering it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that happens.
But the huge fan base begs to differ as far as, are they quality songs? Just because they're not songs for me, well, they didn't write them for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know when I listen back to this album, I think I'll mostly be listening to the first half of it, just because like I said, like those other slower songs towards the end, not so much my style. But like I'm glad that they are feeling like they can do this like experiment with other styles, just like this more rocky stuff or this more synthy stuff, whatever it is, while still trying to like maintain that, I'd say, larger than any other like American power metal or Canadian, let's say, power metal band fan base.
Oh, dude,
they're in an interesting spot.
They really are. And I've said it before, it's like, there's this little community of us, and while it might be safe to say Archers is part of it as they're friends with us and stuff, they've still reached a level none of us have.
Yes. Yes.
And it shows when they did that Abyss headlining tour, they were selling bigger than some of the OGs, and so I think it's that's the best time for them to try something, because here again, this goes back to someone's gonna be mad at you no matter what you do. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, because if they just wrote Apex over and over again, well, then people are gonna be mad about that.
Yeah.
So I say, and again, this goes back to, not to turn it back to me, but the guy getting like making a comment that I said I would keep singing about science and then I did sci-fi. Like, as artists, dude, you got to go where you're feeling inspired, you know? And if this is what was inspiring them, then that's what they had to get out, you know?
Yeah.
We could go back to the whole Opeth debate, right? Where when they kind of, yeah. But same thing.
Yeah.
Like, they probably knew the risk when they were like, yeah, we're going to become a 70s rock prog band now. I'm sure they knew the risk, but that's what their hearts were telling them to do, and they did
that's
it.
What it was.
I'll nerd out a little bit here by going into my interpretation of the story and concept of all this. So I haven't really like looked up any full like explainers or like Brittany talking about it beyond just like the basic premise of, oh, it's an AI who gains consciousness. So for the listeners who don't want to fuck around with the lyrics but are curious what the hell they're singing about, basically the way Phantoma goes is that this is taking place like 10,000 years in the future. Earth pretty much fucked except for like little like glass domes where like the remnants of humanity exist. The rest of the surface of the planet is populated by these robots who seem to just do labor of some sort. The main character is Phantoma, who starts to gain self-awareness and wants to break free of just like the standard being a robot doing whatever it is the robots are doing out there. She finds a message buried in the code, one might say, telling her to come to a group of other robots who are sort of breaking free and finding their own way. And she's like, oh, hey, that's cool. So she goes and meets the collective and finds out that the robot person in charge of the collective is like, yo, I'm going to fucking kill all the humans. And she's like, yeah, that's not cool. So then she wanders over to the humans and meets them in their domes of green and glass. And she's like, wow, humans, pretty cool. And then she warns them that, yo, all these other robots are going to come to kill you. And the humans, turns out, kind of suck. They aren't like the wonderful gods that she thought they might be. You might call them gods in decay, who basically just like laugh at her and tell her to go fuck herself. Then that is kind of leads us into what I was talking about, like the second act low point of the album with Give It Up or Give It All, where you have this like, oh man, things suck, but instead of giving up, I'm gonna give it my all. And then this is where I think the album takes an interesting turn, and that Ghost in the Mist is about this mysterious ghost would basically fucking up both sides of this conflict, both the humans and the robots. It's just how I interpreted this. And then so basically the last 3 songs of the album are like the villain origin story of Phantoma embracing like taking vengeance on both sides of this conflict. I could be wrong about this, but that's how I interpreted the album, and it kind of fits with like the less inspiring and like more like darker side of those songs musically. I think it might have worked better for me if it leaned more into Unleashed Archer's like Melodeath side rather than this more like the chuggy stuff that they kind of had like in Blood Empress. But it's an interesting little turn there, and I'm curious to see what else they do with this in the future. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah. Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah. Totally.
You're welcome. If I am wrong about that, please leave a comment and engage with this video.
That's the way.
If you made it this far, yeah.
Yeah, if we don't split this up into like 2 episodes or something. But
we probably put that explainer as its own separate little thing as well.
Oh,
because
yeah.
the Glory Hammer one that he did is like our third most popular video ever. Just explaining the whole Glory Hammer lore. People go reference that video. So these are good to put separate.
Did I tell you that when we saw Unleash the Archers a few years ago, I was with former podcast host and current executive producer Stella and her husband. I was basically like explaining the lore of Apex and Abyss to them while we were driving around to the show. Like, oh, see, it makes sense now, guys.
Dude, it's funny. For the longest time, I was completely off on the Abyss Apex lore. And like so again, can't get into too many details of the Future Prime story, but I thought it was super similar to, the Apex Abyss story, and I wanted to make sure it wasn't,
Yeah.
And so when I told Brittany, she's like, yeah, that's way off, bro. I was like, oh, well, one, that's good, because then I won't be accidentally ripping you off. But now I feel bad that as your friend, I have no idea what your concept album was about.
I think I personally think it's understandable. Like I am friends with a lot of people, and I'm sorry, I don't keep up 100% with all the things that everyone does.
I think most musicians get it.
Yeah.
Like all of us are immersed in our own
brains
stuff.
are already exploding too much.
Yeah. You know, like none of us, like I would never take it personal if someone's like, oh, I have no idea what every song on, like if another musician came, like when other musicians don't know my songs, but they know who my band is, I don't go like, what do you mean you've never listened? Like I get it because I probably haven't listened to yours either, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I had a time when I was at a live show, I was wearing a Visigoth shirt, and I was talking to a guy there who had to point out my shirt and say, hey, I am the guitarist in that band. And I'm like, oh, shit. Because I just didn't recognize.
Dude, that's happened to me.
Yeah.
Some girl, I was wearing a Prime shirt at an Avantasia show. I don't normally do that, but at a big power metal show, I just wanted to like put a little feeler out there. And this girl was like, oh, Helion Prime, I know those guys.
Yeah.
She's like talking to me.
Would it shock you to know that
that was
the person I was just talking about?
That was our producer.
Stella, our
was it?
Host.
Yeah.
Amazing.
She told us.
So you remember that? That's wild.
That's why
I don't think she would think you would remember that.
Well, I remember because I could be wrong, but I thought I made her feel bad, and I totally didn't mean to. Because at some point I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm in this band." No. And there was like a moment of like, "Oh."
She tells a story.
I don't know.
That's great.
I
well,
felt like
It's
I
a
accidentally made
hilarious
it
story.
So I felt a little guilty. I was like, "Oh, I didn't mean to make someone feel bad." Yeah.
The circle of Californian power metal nerds.
Well, especially when Avantasia comes for the first time and ever, you know, we're all there.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So you know what also is amazing? I don't know if it's that amazing, but I needed to segue.
What's not amazing?
Somehow. We listened to another album that came out recently, which is Freedom Call's Silver Romance. That's the name of the album?
Silver Romance is the name of the album.
Damn.
That's what it says.
I was not paying attention. So this is a funny story. I like the story. So Freedom Call, everyone knows them. They semi-regularly just put some happy sounding power metal stuff.
It's been like 5 years since the last album. It's been a little bit for them.
That's what I said.
They're every 2 or 3 years.
Semi-regularly.
Their last album cover is quite interesting.
Many of them are.
Or Master of Light is
Master of Light. That's a good album for how shitty the album cover is. Okay?
Yes, we had that.
So before you dive into it, full disclosure to all listeners, I've never listened to a single Freedom Call album, and I'm sorry.
That's fine. You don't have to apologize.
Yeah,
there's a lot of bands.
I am the host here, and I barely listen to the albums we talk about. It's Kyle that
most of the albums are me saying like, "Hey, Fernando, this album's pretty cool. Have you listened to it?" And he says no.
Yeah, Kyle reviews them for me, and I am the audience surrogate. That's the dynamic of the show.
And every now and then you bitch about Dragon Force.
Every now and then, but don't bring it up. We were doing so well because so I want to talk about Freedom Call not because it's an amazing album. It sounds like Freedom Call. If you like Freedom Call, you'll enjoy 70% of it. Some of the songs I think they aren't that good, but most of it is. If you don't enjoy Freedom Call, you will hate like most of it probably.
It's very happy sounding.
Are they one of those bands where it's like if you've heard one album, you've heard it all?
Not that far. Like there's still variety, but you can tell once you are cued into the Freedom Call sound, it's like, yeah, that's obviously Freedom Call. You don't need to tell me. I don't need to see the tag in it.
Gotcha.
And this album, so I wanted to bring it up because we listened to it when it came out the other night. We made a listening party with the fancy Spotify stuff with Discord. We were listening to it with Kyle and with some of our other friends all together. And I love that. I love that experience. Even if the album is not the greatest album I've ever heard, just doing this little thing where with all my friends from around the world, we can say, okay, midnight in New York time, this album comes out. I'm going to press the button and we're all listening to it at the same time. And we are with the text chat just sharing our impressions in real time. And we shared those 40 minutes, whatever long it was. It was really great. And many of the songs were really like happy sounding cool that kind of bringing it back to an older style of power metal, but with a more modern twist in the lyrics, like mentioning that you are indeed Freedom Call and this is your album.
There are
several
multiple songs
times.
in this album where they mention that they are indeed Freedom Call. It's hilarious. And when we did that whole listening party, I had been drinking, we'll say, a decent amount of wine earlier in the evening. And so I was just like in the perfect mood for some like stupidly happy power metal with the bros. And so I kind of love this album, even if like, hey, it's a solid Freedom Call album. I think all of that combined, on top of just being some pretty fun, happy songs, this is one of my favorites of the year so far.
Yeah.
Just the stupid silver romance.
And sometimes that's okay. Like, again, where it's like, not every album a band does has to reinvent the wheel for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I think
if the songs are good, the songs are good.
Yes.
The last song on the album, Metal Generation, it's part of the lyrics is saying Freedom Call is back. And they also like reference their earlier stuff in it. And like, it's really dumb. But I get, if you're in the mood, it hits. It's good stuff.
Yes. If you're in,
Okay.
I gotta say, I gotta admit this. I never kept up much with Freedom Call. I just knew of the very old albums. And for some reason, I completely bought into this idea that they put forward here that, oh yeah, this is a band that hasn't put an album in like 15 years or something, right? And they are finally back, and this is their glorious triumph. And I mentioned it, and the guys are like they have like 27 albums, and they come out every 2 years. Like, okay, it almost worked.
It's been 5 years since the last one, and that was a long 5 years. Okay,
it was
2019 to now.
It was a long 5
that's like 20
years. Yeah. But I liked a couple of the songs here. There were some songs that were actually really cool, really interesting. But most of it feels like, yeah, we're in the. It was the final track, right? That we were mentioning. Like, it sounded like we were in the credits of a high school movie where everyone is like graduating and the credits are rolling, and it tells you like, yeah, Kyle went on to be a, I don't know, businessman,
Power
whatever.
podcaster.
Yeah. It had that kind of vibes. But mainly, I want everyone to try this. If you have never done this, if you're used to just listening to music by yourself on your headphones and maybe commenting on some chat, get some people to do a listening party. If you don't pay for Spotify, you can do this with some websites with YouTube. They are easy to find, just like simul watching, where everyone can join in.
Discord has like the activities thing now where you can sync up with YouTube videos.
There you go.
Just like Google Plus had a decade ago, but now
that kind of thing.
We're back here.
Because it's really good. It's a really cool thing to be able to share with other people. Listening a full album, it's just a great experience to have that real-time reaction to each other and with each other. It really makes it a great activity. I recommend it a lot. This is putting also listening to music as your main activity that you're doing, not just listening in the background while you're doing something else, and doing it with friends or people that you're just chatting with and you might be friends with later on because of this. I really recommend this to anyone. It would be even better to just, if you have local friends that you can get together with physically in a place, put some speakers and listen to it. That's even better. But I know that's much harder. So give this a try because I really, really enjoy this. So thank you, Freedom Call. Because
I feel like this is exactly the way they would want the album to be.
Yes, because it was the exact vibe for that. For this kind of sappy, happy friendship is magic. Yeah, everything is awesome. And that's the albums I listen to.
Well, I've listened to a bunch more albums. I wanted to highlight a few of them, just kind of on the quicker side, as we are hitting the 2-hour mark on the recording here. So first up, I'll bring up the album Battle Ballads by Tyr. That is a great name for an album, I would say. And Tyr is another one of those kind of like consistent bands with the way their sound is. But I think it'd been a minute since their last album, and this was one that also really hit for me. The new album has a lot of songs that really hit the style of what Tyr I think is most about, kind of hitting that like balance of power and folk metal. So they have the speed, but they have like the catchy melodies, the big choruses. I've gone back to listen to this album of theirs quite a bit. I do like to give some specific song recommendations. So off the new ones, I think Probably the biggest hit is probably Dragons Never Die, and Axes would be another really good one. For the people who want to just jump into a couple of songs, I would go for those. I'm guessing you guys haven't heard either of these albums yet, I'm assuming.
Sadly.
So I've never been able to get into Tear for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're thought fondly of by many. And I remember like when Demons and Wizards came around, Tear was one of the openers. And so I was like, all right, man, I'm gonna dive back in again. And I don't know why, but I think just going back to again what we were saying is for whatever reason, like whatever I'm looking for, I don't find it in Tear, unfortunately. And it sucks because I would love to. I love the theme, you know. All the ingredients are there. And it's funny you mentioned like the faster paced songs because maybe I've just heard the wrong stuff, but everything I've heard feels very mid paced, which I don't mind a good mid paced song, but when that's all I'm hearing, I get a little bored, you know? So yeah, I don't know.
Sometimes that happens when you search for stuff because it might be more like broadly or algorithmically popular. And so when you search for a band that comes up, this is very tangential, but when I was first getting into power metal years and years ago, and I was listening to some songs from Imaginations from the Other Side, and the only songs that I had seen people recommend to me, I think it was like Bright Eyes, Mordred Song, and The Story Ends. And so I'm like, oh, this is like a really slow album that Blind Guardian made. And it wasn't until much later that I heard the like, you know, Script for My Requiem and shit. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? So it's just weird how that can happen.
That's a great perspective because like if you told anyone who knows Guardian, yeah, I don't listen to Imaginations, it's a little too slow for me. People be like, what?
Yeah, I'm a fucking lunatic. Yeah. So it's just weird how perspective can shape like that.
Yep. So maybe that's how it's been for me in Tear because that's like I always associate them with these slower paced songs. So clearly, for some reason or another, that's what I've heard, you know.
All right. And then another album, I wasn't sure if I was even going to talk about this on the podcast, but I mentioned it to Fernando, and there's like this whole like thought experiment I have to go through with it, so just bear with me. So the band Nocturna has a new album called Of Sorcery and Darkness, sort of this like, I guess, symphonic-ish, power metal-ish type band that has this like gothic vibe with these two singers who do like sort of like, I guess, standard metal female vocals and then like more operatic ones too. It's very similar to their first album, and I only kind of dug a couple songs on it. But the reason I wanted to bring it up on the podcast to begin with is I have this like, I don't know, mental complex with Federico. What was his last name, Fernando?
Federico Mondelli.
That between Frozen Crown and now Nocturna, and that I feel like I should like them much better than I do, because like, okay, they're power metal bands, they're fast, they're pretty shreddy, they have different vocal styles. I really liked Frozen Crown's first album. I thought it showed a lot of promise, and I've been like struggling the past few years to figure out why the heck am I not liking these bands more, because like they're not really like slow paced or mid paced. They're not like super memey and dumb. Like it should be the things that I want in a modern power metal band, and it's not clicking for me, and I've never been able to figure out why, and I just had to get that thought out there.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We talked about Frozen Crown when they first appeared on the internet many years ago.
I think it was around when Helion Prime started, unless I'm remembering.
No, it was
correctly.
later.
Was it later?
It was later, yeah, because I remember we were already doing the show for a while when we saw their first video. I'm pretty sure that's the first time we heard about them. And it was like, this has a lot of promise. This sounds like it could be a fresh new power metal, fast, super guitar thing, cool vocals, whatever. And we were like, we listened to the first album and we thought, yeah, this has all the seeds to go like beyond. It should be awesome. But then time passed. We got the second album and we thought it felt like songs that could have been on the first album. Like nothing much had changed. Not in the way like you would think. It's not like the songwriting is the same, like the songs are the same or there are copies or whatever. It's like that promise we saw, that development, we didn't see it realized. And then we saw the other band, which is this one, Nocturna. And it was like, again, oh, this could be cool. These are some, I can see this going places. And then another release, and it's like, it's not going places. So it's a bit weird. Maybe we are skewed. We're thinking of something else, but I feel like they haven't grown into what they can be in both cases, and both are like very connected by Federico and also some of the other members. But they're doing good. Frozen Crown is doing really great, honestly.
Yeah, like I'm looking forward to seeing them at, I think they're coming to Prague Power this year.
Yes, they are playing in Prague Power this year. I would like to catch them live sometime because I feel like the live show should be really good. But until then, it's like, yeah, I wish the material was a bit more developed by now. Because it's one of those things, like, I really want to, like, really like this, you know? Like, on paper, we should be banging. And it's like, maybe it's just missing that little extra push to get to the thing.
Yeah, it's an odd scenario. But, you know, I'm going to keep listening to the stuff that comes out because, like, I feel like that promise is always there.
Yeah.
And I want to see it fulfilled.
Yes, I agree. And again, it's nothing, obviously, against them. Like, we try, we want them to become this new great band.
I want music
Italy.
to be good.
Yeah.
Like, we were just talking about Blind Guardian. Just make music good. They figured it out. Fuck, dude. Come on.
Well,
it's so easy, guys. Come on.
No pressure. Like,
yeah, let's all just do a Guardian.
Let's all do a Guardian. It's so easy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, before AI achieves the singularity, I want to wrap up with one last album called The Singularity by someone who people might have heard of, they might not have. A man named Bear McCreary, best known for being a composer for TV shows and video games. People here might best know him from the new God of War games that he did, including Blood Upon the Snow, which Jason here covered.
I did.
In addition to that, he's worked on a bunch of TV shows like The Walking Dead.
In addition to the cover that I did.
Yes. He did the score for one of my favorite shows, Black Sails. He also did Outlander, Battlestar Galactica. Guy's all over the place. But he's also a fan of metal, and he just put out like a giant, like nearly 2-hour long concept album called The Singularity with a whole bunch of guests from like big name guests, like Slash is out here doing fucking guitar solos and stuff. He's got Serge Tankian, like a lot of big name guests. He's got actors, like actual Hollywood actors doing voiceovers, and they don't sound like shit because they're actually good actors doing these things. Was it like Lee Pace, Ryan Hurst, and Denai Guerrero from people might recognize from God of War or The Walking Dead. So he's collaborating with people he knows, and it's such a cool album that I've seen nobody talking about, at least within like our normal metal spheres, because I think like the people who would follow his music aren't really looking for this style of music, like the regular metalheads and like TV composer people just aren't crossing over. And so I don't think this has gotten a ton of attention.
I wonder, too, how many metalheads are following Bear McCreary. Because, full honesty, I never heard of him until I've heard of him, but he never came really into my presence until I wanted to cover that song from God of War. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I had to look up, like, all right, well, who wrote the song? And then it's funny because he did on Godzilla King of the Monsters, he did a cover of Godzilla by Blue Oyster Cult with Surge, which I literally just now found out because I'm looking up this album because I'm very intrigued to listen to it. I was like, oh, that was him.
And he's got Blue Oyster Cult he's done on the album. And then they covered Godzilla at the live show that I just mentioned. So it's all connected.
Yep. But it's like he's that guy who we all know him.
Yeah.
But we don't know him. If you know what I mean? Because he's been in all these mediums that we've done, video games, movies, TV shows. So again, I don't think it's like us. I don't think it's like the average metalhead sitting around like, when's that Bear McCreary metal album dropping, baby?
Yeah, you know? I had no idea this was out or happening until like a week before it came out. And he's also done like a graphic novel with it. So this is like a whole thing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He's done, which I think I haven't followed like the story or anything of it. I just listened to the songs. And there's a
Well,
ton
he's
of
got 2 million monthly listeners, so I think he's doing all right.
he's
He's
doing okay, even if his like little pet project here doesn't take off. I think he's just probably happy to have done it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about on the show here, it's not really power metal like at all. It mostly falls into like symphonic stuff or like a prog rock, or sometimes there's like metalcore or like new metal type stuff. There's also a lot of folk metal type stuff. So there's like Scottish rap and like bagpipes and hurdy-gurdies. So like listen to this album, you will probably find something cool. You might not vibe with all of it because there's 20 something songs for nearly 2 hours. If I wanted to just,
It definitely sounds like an experience.
Yeah.
yes, that's what I would recommend this as. It's just an experience.
Just looking at the future, at the guest list, the full guest list, this is so
It's
interesting because
Right?
this is so varied. Because you mentioned Slash and Sozos Tangent, and it's Corey Taylor, Joe Satriani, Brendan Small, Gene Hoglan. This is like this sounds awesome.
Yeah, right. Like that's
Guthrie
why
Govan is on
like I
this.
love the
What?
like the dissonance here of like all these big names doing this like weird metal album. So I guess to just recommend like a few songs depending on what style you're looking for. Redshift and Type 3 are some I think kind of straightforward metal songs people would like. For my Black Sails enjoyers, the song Industrial Revolution has some hurdy-gurdy stuff going on, so that's a big recommend. The song Exiles has like bagpipes and Scottish rap stuff going on, so that's really cool. The song Escape from the Machines is like mostly guitar solo stuff from Slash and Joe Satriani. And then the big finale symphonic thing is The End of Tomorrow, which is also pretty cool. Has more stuff from Slash on it. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in this album that I've seen basically no discussion on. So I'm happy to just bring it up here.
This is awesome. I'm gonna check it out. And everyone listening should as well. That's just how this goes.
I got it saved. Yep.
You're now contractually obligated to listen to the album because you listen this far into the episode. That's how it works.
If anyone listens to 2 hours of a power metal podcast, where we mostly just talk
What's
about
another 2 on an album?
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Well, I think I'm happy to wrap things up there. Thank you very much, Jason, for coming on and hanging out with us for a couple hours here, talking about your stuff, nerding out about Blind Guardian.
I appreciate you both having me. It's great to always be on here. So like I said, I won't be back until I have a new project, but
Well, that'll be like next week,
true.
I'm sure. So that's fine.
Yeah, that is tradition. So if I want to come back, I'll just make up a project and then we'll split up after, so it's fine. No, but truly, I appreciate both of you for your time and letting me come on here and talk about Prime, bitch about Reddit, all that stuff. But
we do the same thing.
Yeah, that's just our usual Saturdays. So
yeah, right, exactly. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming here. Thank you everyone for listening. Make sure to follow Jason and his Ashcraftverse and everything. You can find it on YouTube. You can find his Patreon. It's the same, right? Ashcraftverse.
I think it's just my name, Jason.
Just
Ashcraft.
Jason Ashcraft. Just look for Jason Ashcraft. You'll find it. He's the only one with that name that's this popular. So it's an easy thing to find.
You're lucky to have a last name that sounds cool and metal-y.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
I have been asked if my last name is a stage name, so that made me feel good.
Nice.
Because it's not.
There you go.
There you go. You heard it here first. So also we have a little Patreon to try to keep the podcast showing up in places. If you really love the show and you can drop like a little $1 there, that's fine. And if you can't or don't want to, that's also fine. We'll make it happen every time somehow because we just do it because we want to. And you can follow us on our Instagram. That's where we are trying to be the most active right now. Just find Powerful Department Podcast, Powerful Podcast. You will see it, especially if you look for the Power Metal Podcast. And also on our YouTube, wherever you're listening to this, you can listen to our old shows. You can go all the way back to the first time Jason was here if you want to learn about ancient history by now and just fill in some gaps you might have.
I would be very curious to go listen to that and see like what hopeful things I said then that didn't happen.
Who knows?
Go listen to the Big Metal Adventure where I went to hyperspace and Jason played like 3 shows at once. It was great.
That's a good one,
dude. I got a plaque from Ty for that. I don't know if you saw that.
That's awesome. Yeah, and the story is really good. You can find that, and yeah, stay powerful, everyone.
Stay powerful.
Stay powerful.